Hello, welcome back to the channel. We're all in this lockdown situation, as everyone around the world is at the moment, so it challenges you in things you want to do, certainly photographically, if not just getting out, getting shopping and things of that sort. But I was delving through my little cupboard of useful photographic bits and pieces, and I thought, I haven't used this gadget yet, and I think it's probably about time I brought it into play. So without further ado, this video is about water droplet photography. I bought this rather medical looking strange piece of apparatus about 9 months ago with a view to playing with it, and I've never got round to doing it. And what this is it's a container that you fill with a particular coloured dyed water or oil, and at the bottom is a little solenoid arrangement here which is triggered by your camera and your flash. It triggers the flash, and as well as the camera triggers this, and it times the droplet of water out of this little nozzle here into whatever you want to drip it into, basically. And they're quite tricky to set up. You have to play around for quite some time to get the timing right, both of the flash and of the timing of the drip hitting the water and so on and so forth. So I'm going to have a play with this and see what happens. Nothing better to do, is there, at the moment? Apart from get all my camera gear covered in messy coloured water and splashes and everything of the sort. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll go and set up in the kitchen table, much to Sarah's annoyance, because I'll probably occupy that when she wants to use it. And let's see if we can't get any images out of all of this. Anyway, speak to you in a bit. Well, before we can start, I've actually got a problem. The problem is I've got to hold this device somehow, and I'm not going to do it by hand. I need to actually adapt it so that it can actually fit on the tripod. And the tripod is set up here. And what I've got is a couple of GoPro clamps mounted on top of the tripod. And I've had to modify a GoPro clamp and glue it to the back side of the solenoid unit, which you can see there, rather ugly bit of gluing. But I've epoxied that on there, so the idea is that that will sit quite happily in here and be fastened, and then I can let go of it and hopefully I can start to drip drips into the puddle that I haven't created here yet. I've got to go and scavenge some pots from the kitchen to do that. So let's get on with that and see how we get on. Okay, so I've now got that fastened on there, and if I show you, the GoPro clamps are nice and conveniently able to hold that unit, and the baby tripod with this light fitting on it here is casting some light on that at the moment, so I can show it to you. The light will come off in a minute, and I'll set the camera up and the flash on the tripod. So I'll move you over to the tripod and watch all this happening. Okay, so the next problem to overcome is something to hold the water. Don't tell Sarah, that's one of her baking dishes. That looks a little bit low, so I'm going to have to raise that up. And luckily, conveniently, I have some unused cans of Guinness here, which should raise that to a convenient height so that I can drip the water into it. Now I need to get the camera up so that it's more or less at this level. So it's just pointing slightly above the liquid, so I'll have to go and get another small tripod for that. So first of all, let's move the dripper into place. And that's going to drip roughly into the middle of that bowl of water, which isn't a bowl of water yet, but it will be when I've finished. So let's just get that more or less exactly over the middle, which is where it seems to be. I don't need the light stand on there anymore, so that can come off. And I'll leave that light to one side. So everything's gone a bit dingy now. So the next trick is to get the camera up to this height. And I think I'm going to need to possibly bring everything this way so that I can use the large tripod and mount it next to the table here. So let's just pull all of this stuff over here so it's nearer to the edge. I will get the big tripod and see if I can get the camera up to the right height. So here we go, large tripod. Overkill for this, but let's get that at roughly the right height, which should be something like this. So, okay, we've got the tripod in place. Just spin you around so you can see a little bit more of the action on the tripod front. I've got a landscape panorama head on here. I don't really need that, so I'll leave it on there for the minute. Okay, so the next thing is get the camera mounted on there, complete with all these bits of wire and other things. I'll explain what the bits of wire are in a minute. Just get this all strapped on in place. Now that's about 3 inches too high, so lower things down. That's a bit closer to where we want the camera. I'm not sure how close this lens is going to focus. I might need to spend a bit of time on that as well. But this little gizmo here is a Pluto Trigger. It's a Bluetooth device that can take inputs from different things. At the moment it's taking an input from the camera, and the output here goes into this little socket on the unit here. Trying to find the hole. So that unit, when it fires, will trigger the little valve, the solenoid valve here, to actually open. For instance, like, let's turn that on. You can hear that clicking. That's the little solenoid valve opening. I'm doing it manually, but the camera will make that work, hopefully. I'll just untangle this mess of wires here. I've got the flash already mounted on the camera. Camera on, flash on, Pluto Trigger thing on. And to make the Pluto Trigger actually work, I don't press the shutter on the camera. The Pluto Trigger does that for me. What I do is I get my iPhone, which I've left over here. So just go out of frame, go and find the phone, and lo and behold, there is an application on here, which is the Pluto Trigger application, which uses Bluetooth to talk to the Pluto Trigger unit, and I've got it set in droplet mode. It's got lightning, it's got broken beam infrared, it's got a whole bunch of different things. It's quite a useful little gizmo actually. I've not used it as much as I thought I would, but just to give you an example, if I press that, see it fired the little valve there on the actual droplet unit. I'll just raise you up a bit so you can see the droplet unit as well. Come a bit closer, and I press the button on this application. The droplet unit clicked because it was letting 2 droplets out with a timed gap between them, and the camera fired and the flash on the camera fired. So short of getting some liquid involved, which we'll do now, so if you just bear with me, I'll come back to you in a minute. I'll go and get some suitable liquids. Well, that's the setup completed and ready, and as you can see at the very top here, there's some yellowy dye in the dripper unit, and the dripper unit is directly above the bowl of water, which is mounted on top of my 3 cans of unused Guinness. I now need to make sure that it's focused in the right place, because the camera can't autofocus quickly enough to get this right. So the water's dropping in the middle. I've placed this little steel ruler right over the point the water's dropping, and then I can focus on the edge of the ruler, happy in the knowledge that, hopefully happily in the knowledge of the fact that we will, yep, I've got complete sharp there. I've got f14. I'll probably wind that up as much as I can to something f18 to get as much depth of field front to back here, because it's going to be quite difficult getting all of it in focus because of how close we are, but we'll try. Anyway, I've got the Pluto Trigger application here with some parameters set up. These are all random guesses in terms of timing. First one is the delay from the drip happening to when the flash and the camera actually take the exposure, and the others are timings as to how long the drop lasts and everything. I won't bore you with the details, but there you can actually go online and see all this sort of stuff. So let's take a shot and see what happens. Move the ruler out the way, because hopefully we're locked in on manual focus, so I don't need to worry about that needing to change. And let's plop, splash. So a drip happened, flash happened, shutter happened. What have I got? Let's have a look on the back of the camera and see. Oh yeah, oh yes, I've got a nice little splash. Now, I've got to take quite a few of these, so I won't bore you with all of them. It's all about getting the timings right on the application, because the idea is the drop drops to the water and bounces up, and then a second drop is released a fraction of a second after the first one, and the one that's coming up bouncing out of the water collides with the one in front of the camera lens actually, and they splatter and create interesting patterns. So let me play with that and I'll show you the images and talk you through it from the next stage onwards. Okay, you catch me in full swing trying to get this process working. It seems to be working reasonably well. The timing's incredibly critical. I keep altering the values in this application, and then you have to get rid of the preview that's on the screen, which is on there, and press that. Lo and behold, flash goes off, camera goes off, and then hopefully we can preview it and see. Yes, we've got a nice sort of mushroom shaped collapsed sort of two splashes banging together there. No two splashes are the same, so you have to do several at the same sort of settings to see if you can get a reasonable shot out of it, or whether you need to change the values and try again. But we're coming along. I'm hopeful we'll get something quite decent out of this, so let me carry on and I'll bring you up to date at the end. Well, that was fun. Yellow water all over the kitchen table. Yellow splashes all over the lens. Excellent. Anyway, I think there's some quite nice looking images, so I'm going to review them, and then once I've reviewed them I'll pull 2 or 3 of them up and talk you through how I process them. But I'm reasonably hopeful. A messy and time-consuming process. I'm pleased I didn't drag you guys through all of that, because setting all the timings and fine adjustments between the gaps between the drops in number of milliseconds, it's taken about probably an hour and a half of just playing to actually get some images, reposition the camera, alter the angle, alter the position of the flash and so on. But I'm hopeful there'll be some quite interesting pictures, so let's get on with it. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and please also subscribe so that you get notified when I upload new videos.